In part 3 of texturing this Mallard drake head, I will be beginning my second pass of texturing, which will include getting rid of these pencil line ridges that are a result of the guidance lines that I drew on for that initial pass, when all I was doing was establishing the feather flow. With the feather flow established, I can get rid of all of these excessive lines, and I can begin splitting up this coarser detail into finer detail, adding splits, and in the final pass I'll be coming back and taking care of any grain lines that may have become accentuated. Again, I'm using my Power Hand 3, the 16th inch shank ceramic stone, and it's a tapered ceramic stone. I'm going to start on one side, get my light correct. I'm just going to get rid of all those lines that are a result from picking up and stopping at that pencil line. Just a matter of refining. The thing that's really cool about the Power Hand 3 is there are all kinds of different hand pieces you can buy to go with the power unit. And these hand pieces can even replace your Fordham 1/4 inch flex shaft grinder. You just buy the right hand piece and plug it in, and voila, you don't need a Fordham anymore. That's how versatile this Power Hand 3 is. If you go to the Geschwin website, you can take a look at all the different hand pieces. And this tool is used in many different markets, not just in the wood carving market is just an nth of what the different markets Geschwin enters into, and the Geschwin enters into dentistry and into jewelry making, and of course, you know, our fine art here. So take some time, go over to Geschwin and see what you can see on the different possibilities of this new Power Hand 3. Now I don't have to go over everything. I'm just going over areas that don't have any detail on them. That was the areas of the pencil lines that I initially used as guidance. So I'm getting rid of those. Still following the feather flow lines. I don't want to have these ridges. Just want a consistent feather flow from side to side, from the front to the back. Consistent to the live bird, of course. Then there's areas that are more difficult to see, and I'm hoping that I've made enough camera adjustments to facilitate seeing this detail. I know it's very hard to see in the video at times. Sometimes I even have to kind of pull away from the camera to get the light right. See, I'm pushing here because the bill's in the way. Or the bottom of the neck is in the way, so you always want to start and stop in the same direction, like I'm pulling here. But if I flip it over because I can't reach a certain area, you want to start up high and push towards the back of the feather. So you're working backwards to get into certain areas. With each stroke you can add just a little bit of a twist, and it seems to be more feather-like. The detail under the eye is very straight, and I believe this is the lores of the eye. Not as evident in waterfowl as they are in songbirds. It's just a different feather group surrounding the eye. Look for that. Right now I'm not going to worry about the grain line that has been perhaps accentuated in certain areas from my bit riding up on the grain line and falling down deeper in between in the softwood between the grain lines. So because I'm still going in and breaking things up, I could still be creating more accentuations to the grain lines in doing this. So why go and clean it up? Because I might be, you know, creating them all over again. So I wait to do that till the very end. Even in my wood burning I do it that way. Once I think I've got everything as refined as I'd really like it to be, then I go back and I hunt down my grain lines, and I'm looking from every direction possible and different lighting conditions, and even feeling with my hand, can I feel any grain lines? Because some Tupelo will have a lot of grain lines, or it might have just one really difficult grain line you have to deal with on a beautiful piece of Tupelo. So, you know, we can't get rid of all the grain. It wouldn't be wood. So, instead we figure out ways to deal with it. Once you get all of your lines split up and you feel like you've achieved the fineness you're after, then it's time to come back and add some split lines. Once the split lines are done, you want to start taking a look at getting rid of any grain lines. You know, when I worked with other micro grinders, I couldn't just flip it around and or with a flick shaft Dremel. You can, but I mean with the Geschwin, it's like drawing with a pencil in the detail that I can achieve and the ease of doing so. to change the direction of that feather flow that was laid in so carefully. Pay attention to what you've already done, and you're just refining those feather lines into actual believable fineness. You can see those pencil lines are slowly disappearing, yet there's still this great radiation going on from this point right here all the way around this duck's head. You can't just do straight down lines either. I mean, you got to have a little bit of a curve at the end to end the feather barb tip. So that's what I'm doing, is going in and kind of ending these lines that were longer than the actual feather would show with this part of the head. So it's just refining. Continue this on to the back of the head. You can see this area here needs to be more split up. These are either areas that I missed on the first pass or that were created by my reference lines. Just going in and when we got to the back of the head, those feathers appear to be longer. So I don't need to shorten up my strokes as much as I did on those cheek areas and then the front of the neck. But it still has to be broken up. In the back of the head, I'm getting a little more aggressive in some areas. Be careful when you do this, because you have a tendency to be more aggressive in the softer areas between the grain lines, and if you don't ever get across the grain line with that aggression, it's only going to make that grain line stick out more. So you have to be cognitive of those grain lines and the areas in between and make sure that you're not inadvertently accentuating the grain lines. They're hard enough to get rid of as it is. So I've got my SMC Tornado 1000 on the lowest level when I texture, and it's not very noisy, and it just takes the little bits of particles that are being generated from texturing. I am carving. I'm carving away little lines of wood, so you want to be sure and have your dust sucker employed at all times that you're carving. end of feather, you need to kind of go across that line that's drawn in there to shorten the stroke. You just don't want continual lines like this. You need to go in, if you start that way, and break it up. I try not to start that way. The closest closest I come to the lines would be those that you saw in the very beginning on the cheeks here. I just go in and break them up so they don't show anymore. Now you look at this side, and you look at this side, see how much they still show? This side, hardly see them. And what you do see actually is attractive. So, it's important to go back and clean things up and refine in your process. Move up to the crest. I'm going to do this one side, and then I'll shut the video off and complete it, and the other side, and we'll pick up again on that, the last passes that I make in texturing this mallard drake head. That initial feather flow is of great help right now. I don't have to, keep checking to make sure that the feather flow is right, because I laid in those initial lines. So I know if I look at what I laid in initially, I'm on the right track. It saves a lot of time, and especially keeps you straight. Can't say that I haven't had to in the very beginning when I first started texturing sand something down because I started going off in the wrong direction. So the pencil is probably your greatest asset when it comes to texturing, because it can be your guidance and save you a lot of time. I'm breaking up the smaller, shorter feathers that are in the front of the head. Remember, Mother Nature isn't perfect. None of us are, neither are birds, but you want to achieve somewhere to the right or left of zero a likeness to the bird, zero being perfect, and little imperfections can make a sculpture, wood carving, look more real, because again, Mother Nature is not perfect. So adding those little imperfections to your carving in an effective way can make all the difference, especially in competition. You can turn your head, the head, to be able to see little areas that may have been overlooked or need just one line to split them up to make them look more convincingly real. As I work back, over the crest. These lines are getting a little bit longer, and in some cases a little bit deeper, because the feathers are a little bit exposed. Part of the feathers coming off of the head are have more showing. This would account for some of the difference in texture and iridescence. The texture of a feather can affect the way the iridescence on it looks. So I think that's what you see, or as part of it, when you see the color change that occurs along the top of the crest and front of the face, and then along the back of the head, as opposed to the colors on the side of the face, which are more green. One thing that I always say is important is to be evenly uneven.